Ladies and gentlemen, viewers around the world, welcome to Intervlog. Today we bring you a detailed and carefully connected overview of what is unfolding in the West African nation of Guinea-Bissau, a country facing yet another moment of political upheaval. In this comprehensive introduction, we aim to stitch together the various threads of information emerging from Bissau, as soldiers seize control of state institutions, arrest the president, halt an election, and justify their actions with claims of a destabilization plot. Our tone remains neutral, factual, and measured, following the global standard of public service reporting. Yet, as Intervlog, we also bring reflections, context, and commentary that illuminate the deeper meaning of events, including a few French parables explained in English to add cultural depth to this unfolding story. This is not only the story of a coup, it is the story of power, institutions, a country struggling with fragility, and a region grappling with repeated political shocks. It is a reminder that governance, legitimacy, and stability remain contested in several parts of West Africa. Let us begin. On the afternoon of Wednesday, the 26th of November, Guinea-Bissau's capital, Bissau, was shaken by the sound of gunfire. Witnesses reported shots near the headquarters of the National Electoral Commission. People fled on foot and in vehicles, uncertain about what was happening or who was responsible. This was not entirely new for a country with a long history of coups and attempted coups. But even for Guinea-Bissau, a nation often described as coup-prone, this moment carried a particular weight. The country had just held a presidential election. Vote counting was underway. Political tension was high, and both of the leading candidates had prematurely declared victory. Soon the situation became clearer, at least on the surface. A group of officers appeared on state television. They announced that they had taken full control of the country. They said they were halting the electoral process, closing the borders, and imposing a curfew. They accused several unnamed politicians of plotting to destabilize the nation with the support of what they described as a well-known drug baron. And within hours, the president himself confirmed it. Speaking by phone to France 24, President Umaro Sissoko Embalo stated, "I have been deposed." He said he was arrested while in his office. Government sources later confirmed that key figures, including opposition candidate Fernando Diaz and Domingos Simoes Pereira, had also been detained. Thus, within a few hours, Guinea-Bissau had shifted from an election to a power seizure. This rapid transition is one of the reasons Intervlog often says, "Quand la pluie commence à tomber sans prévenir, c'est que les nuages parlaient depuis longtemps." When the rain begins to fall without warning, it is because the clouds had been speaking for a long time. In other words, sudden events rarely come from nowhere. The tensions, the mistrust, and the institutional weakness had all been building for years. The announcement of the coup was delivered by Brigadier General Denis Nkanha, head of the military office at the presidency. He introduced a new entity, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order. The officers declared that they would assume authority in order to protect the country from what they described as a plot by political actors supported by criminal interests. Checkpoints appeared across Bissau. Streets quickly emptied. The curfew set for 1900 GMT loomed. Land and air borders were closed. International reactions began to emerge. Portugal called for a return to constitutional order. Observers across the region expressed concern. For a country with only 2 million residents, these developments may seem geographically small, yet their implications carry regional significance. Guinea-Bissau sits between Senegal and Guinea, two countries with their own political dynamics and security challenges. It also has a coastline dotted with uninhabited islands, islands that have long been exploited by drug traffickers moving cocaine from Latin America toward Europe. The UN has at times referred to Guinea-Bissau as a narco-state. The military's reference to a well-known drug baron is therefore a serious, though not unprecedented, accusation in this context. But because neutrality is important, Intervlog emphasizes, the officers have not presented publicly verifiable evidence for this allegation, and neither journalists nor observers have independently confirmed it. Nevertheless, this claim forms the centerpiece of their justification. To understand the current crisis, one must look at the political context preceding the events. President Umaro Sissoco Embalo, who came into office promising stability and reform, had clashed repeatedly with Parliament. In 2022, he dissolved the National People's Assembly. Political tensions deepened. Opposition leaders accused him of consolidating power and sidelining rivals. Critics suggested that some of the crises he declared were manufactured to justify further centralization of authority. Supporters argued that he was attempting to restore order in a country historically grappling with political instability. The president entered the November election as the favorite, largely because the main opposition figure, Domingos Simoes Pereira, had been barred from running. Pereira's party, the PAGS, the historical party that led the liberation struggle against Portugal, threw its support behind Fernando Dias, a lesser-known candidate. Dias then surprised many analysts by performing better than expected. As votes were counted, his camp claimed victory. Embalo's camp also claimed victory, asserting he had won with 65% of the vote. Both sides declared themselves winners before the Electoral Commission had announced a single official result. This is why Intervlog often uses the French parable, Deux coqs ne chantent pas la victoire avant le lever du soleil sans réveiller le fermier. Two roosters cannot both crow victory before sunrise without waking the farmer. Meaning, premature triumph can trigger consequences. In this case, it triggered a confrontation with the military. The military in Guinea-Bissau has historically been a powerful actor, often considered the ultimate arbiter of political disputes. Since independence in 1974, the armed forces have intervened repeatedly in civilian politics. Several observers have noted deepening tension between President Embalo and the military high command. His attempts to restructure security institutions were seen by some officers as an attempt to weaken the influence of long-standing power centers within the armed forces. Therefore, when soldiers arrested the president, the army chief of staff, his deputy, and the interior minister, all at once, it signaled not just a political dispute, but a dramatic rupture within the state's power architecture. Journalists reported that soldiers had attempted to force the Electoral Commission chairman to read results declaring Embalo the winner. According to Domingos Simoes Pereira, who was meeting African Union observers at the time, armed men tried to pressure the commission before gunfire erupted. This aligns with the broader narrative emerging from analysts. Embalo attempted to shape or preempt election results. The military, mistrustful of him, intervened decisively. Rivals of the president interpreted the intervention as a reaction to what they saw as authoritarian overreach. Supporters of the president called it a coup driven by factions resistant to reforms. In this environment, institutions, already fragile, were overwhelmed. Guinea-Bissau's history features at least 9 coups or attempted coups over the past 5 decades. This pattern reflects long-standing structural challenges. Weak state institutions, a military with strong political sway, entrenched patronage networks, influence of transnational drug trafficking, economic vulnerability and poverty. For a population of just over 2 million, these conditions make governance extraordinarily difficult. Many citizens are accustomed to political uncertainty, yet weary of recurrent instability. Intervlog often reminds viewers, le poisson se débat quand l'eau devient trop trouble. The fish struggles when the water becomes too murky. Meaning, people suffer most when the political environment is unclear and unpredictable. Today, Guinea-Bissau stands at such a moment, one where uncertainty has returned to the center of national life. West Africa has witnessed a series of coups in recent years, in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The The region is struggling with questions of legitimacy, poverty, insecurity, and external influence. The coup in Guinea-Bissau adds yet another chapter to this regional pattern. Although the context differs, the deeper issues, governance, state cohesion, and public trust are shared across borders. Moreover, the reference to a drug baron resonates strongly in a region that has increasingly been used as a transit zone by international criminal networks. If true, such involvement would highlight the vulnerability of institutions across West Africa to illicit economic interests. But again, in the spirit of neutrality, Intervlog reiterates, these allegations remain unverified. They form part of the narrative presented by the coup leaders but must be analyzed critically. The arrests of Embalo, Diaz, Pereira, and several senior security officials represent a dramatic consolidation of control by the military faction leading the takeover. Each arrest carries its own significance. Embalo, the sitting president, accused of over-centralizing power. Diaz, an outsider candidate who challenged the established political order. Pereira, the powerful PAIGC leader, symbol of opposition strength. Army Chief Na Ntan and Deputy Touré, officers whose removal signals internal fractures. Interior Minister Kande, responsible for internal security, now sidelined. The removal of these figures suggests that the faction leading the coup intends to restructure the political and military hierarchy. This leads Intervlog to recall another French parable. Quand le grand arbre tombe, les branches cherchent leur nouvelle place. When the big tree falls, the branches seek their new positions. Meaning, once power shifts, everyone must reposition themselves. This is precisely what Guinea-Bissau is experiencing. At the moment, the situation remains uncertain. The coup leaders have asked citizens to remain calm. The curfew remains in effect. Borders are closed. Institutions are suspended. International pressure is likely to increase, particularly from ECOWAS, the African Union, and the European Union. Portugal's call for restraint is only the beginning. The coming days will determine whether dialogue emerges or whether the military tightens its grip further. Key questions now include, will the military present a transition plan? Will international mediators intervene? How will political actors respond from detention? Will the population protest, comply, or remain silent? And most importantly, can Guinea-Bissau avoid sliding deeper into instability? This moment could determine the country's trajectory for years. As we conclude this special Intervlog introduction, we emphasize again our commitment to neutrality, clarity, and context. These events unfold rapidly, but their roots stretch deep into history, into institutions, relationships, and long-standing struggles for power. Guinea-Bissau, a nation rich in culture and potential, finds itself once again in the global spotlight. Its people face uncertainty, but also resilience. Its institutions face pressure, but also opportunity for reform. Its leaders face accountability, but also responsibility. At Intervlog, we will continue to bring you detailed, balanced reporting as the situation develops. We close with one final French parable. Même dans la nuit la plus sombre, la lune cherche son chemin. Even in the darkest night, the moon searches for its path. Meaning, even when uncertainty surrounds us, the search for direction continues. That is the story of Guinea-Bissau today, a country searching for its path. This is the end of our program today. See you on Intervlog, same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching Intervlog. Thank you.